And it's raining. Well, not quite raining, it's drizzle. As long as it doesn't rain harder than this, should be able to get this project done. Stay tuned. I hope the rain stays away and I can get this project done. Welcome back to the channel, DIY Mechanics of the Internet. Today's project is on the i3. 8 months ago, the heads-up display told me that I needed to replace my brake pads. That was 10,000 miles ago. And here we are now, 9 years and 158,000 miles. I'm going to do a brake job on the i3. As far as parts go, I went to ECS Tuning and purchased the i3 brake kit, which is both front and the rear rotors and pads, and it includes the parking sensors. And I just noticed that these boxes are not really labeled with front or rear parts in them. I got 2 boxes of brake pads and the boxes look the same. Are the pads the same? Please tell me the pads are not the same. No, they're different. Okay. I'm not sure if ECS Tuning, if these are labeled as BMW OEM brake pads or not. What else is in this box? Brake hardware. That looks like brake grease, which I don't really need. Brake sensor. So that's 1 box. Brake pads. And in this box, we've got rotors. But it doesn't say front or rear. But this isn't vented, so this is going to be a rear rotor. Plus this hat. Made in Germany. Okay. Rear rotor. That's a rear rotor. Anything else in here? No. That means this box is the front rotors, right? Yes. This is the front rotor. It's vented and has a different hat. But it's not labeled front. These have sat on the shelf for quite a while because these rotors are filthy. It's also not marked as being directional, so it doesn't say if it's driver's side or passenger side. So they look to be universal. The vanes themselves are straight. They're not in any specific orientation. Okay. Inventory done. Let's start right here on the front right. I don't know if this needs the parking sensor. I think the left is the parking sensor. I'm going to interrupt right here, and that is because the previous clip, the vendor that I had used initially to do the brake job for the i3, that project went off the rails when I attempted to do the front brakes. I don't know how it would have worked with the rear brakes. And rather than having you watch me do the front brake job twice, following this, I'm going to do a few highlights that led up to the issue, and then I'm going to have a new intro with the new vendor that I used to complete this brake job. It's starting to rain a little bit heavier, but for safety, there's where the jack stand is, and the jack itself is on the subframe. All right, first, let's move this tire, 17 mil. You know, I torqued these to 100 foot-pounds when I put these winter tires on. Well, damn. Hey. Well, have to clean the threads up on these before installation. At least the bigger gun worked. Let's see, what do I need to crack those loose? Let's see, we're looking like a 13 to crack those loose. Ouch. 13 works. And we want off, and then just push, oh. Well, that's spinning. What we're going to do is use some channel locks on this outside edge and hold it so I can break the nut loose. Well, if anything, we'll just do it this way, because it's already hand loose. And there's blue Loctite on that, so I will clean the threads and put blue Loctite back on it. Having the socket sit on this nut flush. So when you're removing the top one, be careful that you don't strip this nut out. Or strip it. Probably gonna leave that on there. And this caliper should come out. Now, we're gonna need a way to support this because you don't want to support the caliper by the hose. So we're gonna set that to the side. Pull it out of that bracket and set that back there for a moment. Pull this caliper out. There we go. Now we have our boot, our piston. We're going to hang this up here, out of the way. Well, there's the inner pad and there's the brake sensor. And the rear pad, or the outer pad, is right there, is the outer pad. Now, it's got some serious pad left. And as I mentioned earlier, when this sensor made contact with the rotor, the fault came on, and that was 10,000 miles ago. And I have a lot of pad left, and it looks like it wore evenly too. Whoa. Oh, that was some strength. Looks like a 14 millimeter, looks like an E-torque, reverse Torx head, star maybe. Ooh. Okay. Now that's broke, or they're broke free. And our caliper bracket moves away. We got a H6. Looks like an H6. It's gonna be an H6. Voila. Oh, wow. This is gonna be an issue. Oh. Well, that came apart, but I would not do what I did. I would keep the caliper and the pads connected so you have a way to stop the rotor from rotating and remove this set screw first. And then with the set screw removed, then disassemble the caliper and the carrier bracket for it. Now, is this rotor gonna come off? Well, hot dammity damn! 9 years, 158,000 miles, and the bitch just slides right on off. Is this what it's like to be a mechanic in the South? It just comes apart easy? So what I'm gonna do now is hand thread. There's no Loctite on that. Why is there no Loctite on the carrier bolt, but there's Loctite on the caliper bolt? And then we're going to use a brake line wrench. I'm thinking an 11. Most of these are 11s. And then I'm going to put my little hose right here. And what I'm going to do is crack the bleeder open, and all the brake fluid that's right here I'm going to push out. That's going to be the goal. So then we crack this brake bleeder without breaking it, preferably. Okay, the brake bleeder cracked open. That's a good sign. Then I gingerly push this caliper back in place. I'm going to hold that and then set this wrench back down and tighten up my brake screw. There we go. Give me my wrench. Pull this back out. And then that way, raindrops are falling on my head, but I'm too deep in this to quit right now. And then I just push back my caliper, or push back the piston, making sure the boot is nice and clean and the boot folded up nicely so there's no rips, no tears. Oh, the wind's picking up. I don't need any more rain right now. We're gonna wire brush this part of the mating surface for the rotor. So I'm gonna put this anti-seize on, although I may not actually need to because this is a 9-year-old brake job and this rotor just came off easy. And then we're gonna line up the holes. New set screw. The kit gives me a new set screw but can't give me new abutment clips. Really? But I don't know if I like, it's tight but not like, okay. The directions of BMW did not say that these caliper bolts had to have Loctite on them. It doesn't say anything about it. But I'm going to clean up the threads and put some Loctite on them. The torque specs will be listed in the description. Actually, that just kind of slides. Well, what I thought was going to slide right. Well, that just slides right on in. Perfect. Now we feed our brake cable through because that's how it was originally. Let's not twist this all around. But, well, that ain't right. They're not fitting. Huh. Okay. Yeah, that doesn't fit. That brake pad looks too thick. Are those, well, yeah, those are the only front ones because the rear ones don't look like that. So the caliper's pushed in all the way, the piston is, and right here's the way it sits. Well, I'm gonna have to contact ECS Tuning and see if they gave me the right pads. I'm thinking they probably didn't, because those look extremely thick. Unless this piston goes in more, which I don't believe it does. I believe that's bottomed out. But we will try to push it in more. Yeah, that's as far as it goes in. I'm gonna have to contact ECS Tuning and verify with them that they gave me the right pads. So I'm gonna cut this right here and clean up. Here I am, folks, about a week later of dealing with the project for the brakes on the i3. And damn, this is dirty. Anyway, the outcome of that ordeal was kind of left a sour taste in my mouth when dealing with ECS tuning. So as you saw, the caliper did not go over the brake pads. I called ECS Tuning. I was on the phone for 6 minutes and they said they'll call me back. I thought, okay. Because I originally thought maybe they put the wrong pads in the kit. It took them an hour and 15 minutes to call me back. And then once I was on the phone with them and explaining what was going on, that was a whole another 30-minute conversation. And it went from, well, the kit was put together wrong, to, no, the tech says you have the right pads. They fit an i3. It's going to be an extremely tight fit. In that 30-minute conversation, I was going to return the ECS tuning pads and get BMW OEM pads. I just swapped them out. Well, that was another little bit of a wake-up call, because I got like $160 credit, I think, for returning the ECS tuning pads, and then the BMW pads, I owed another $260, which threw a red flag to me. I understand OEM parts are expensive, but $200, $300 for front and rear pads only? What? It was at that point of feeling frustrated and wasting a lot of time to deal with this vendor that I decided to return the entire kit, the front and the rear. So I did it that day. And then I went to FCP Euro. Is that this brand? And I ordered a front and rear kit. I paid for expedited shipping, so it was here sooner. And I noticed a few things. The ECS tuning kits was $433. The FCP Euro front and rear kit was $415 with expedited shipping. And the FCP, I haven't went through the stuff yet, but I noticed they gave me a can of brake fluid, which I'm probably going to need because this will need a brake flush at some point. That's not going to be today's video. And the pads are Bosch. I've never dealt with Bosch, and the rotors are Zimmermann. Never dealt with them, so let me know in the comments. Have you guys dealt with them as a parts supplier? I have dealt with FCP Euro. That is who I used to purchase the inner and the outer tie rod when I did that repair. I haven't looked at these Bosch pads. Whoa. I don't know if you can see, but that is a very thin pad. A very, very thin pad. And if I'm holding up the new front pad with the new rear pad, we have the new pad on the right and the old pad on the left. And if you look at how thick they are, the new pad doesn't really look to be that thick. And it looks like the old pad wears down to right where my thumbnail is at. And then it tells you to replace the brake pads, which is right here where this brake sensor is. There's still plenty of meat left on those pads. Wow. Now, these are OEM pads, and they've lasted 158,000 miles. So I guess I shouldn't complain. Oh, and the Bosch includes new hardware, which the ECS tuning brake pads did not. Does the rear? Oh, the rear doesn't have hardware. And I've got new sensors, and they gave me anti-squeal paste. What is anti-squeal paste? Okay. All right. So with that, let's hopefully get back down there and let's get this project done. Start by removing all of these fasteners here. because I just kind of put this together and left it this way. Oop, put my caliper up here so as to not drop it. Oh, when I was on the phone to ECS Tuning, they had asked the question if the caliper was pushed all the way in. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't go in anymore. Take our old rotor off, set that aside. I think we have enough coating of the anti-seize on that. We just put the new rotor on. Interesting. Now, where's our little hole? There we go. I'm not sure what happened to my original set screw that I had. And we do have new hardware. The Bosch brake pads come with brake lubricant, but don't come with the brake rotor set screw. That's fine. We'll just set that on there. So we're just going to wipe the rotor down, which this appears to be painted like the other rotor was. Re-clean the threads, take the new hardware, the old hardware off, and clean this up. I already did the boots, just a smidgen of grease where the hardware meets the bracket. Although these went over 150,000 miles and there was no binding issue with these brake pads. So in this instance, that may not be necessary. And I would say make sure these wings are on the outside of the bracket and they just snap in. Well, that would be if they were the right width. What am I missing? Ha! What the fuck? So this is the original that came off the caliper bracket, and this is the one that came in the Bosch brake pads. Oh. And as you can see, looking from the rear, the original ones are narrower, the Bosch ones are wider. And because of their wideness, these new clips don't actually fit on the bracket. Is this what it's gonna be like owning a BMW? So I rest my case. Again, gonna have to just save these abutment clips and slide them back in. Oh, would you look at that? Those actually fit. Okay, well those are not gonna work. Just clean these up real quick and slap these back on like so. Oh, I need to clean up my threads for the caliper bolts or the bracket bolts. Adding a little bit of Loctite. And then put the bracket on. I'm not gonna lie, having that set screw would come in handy right about now. Oh, you can't have grease on the rotor. Might need that set screw so the rotor and the hub stay together. Tells me 2 different part numbers, but they're not listed about which one's the front and which one's the rear. After another 10 minutes of online looking, this is the front brake wear sensor. We're gonna torque these down as you saw previously. Plus 90. Why is it 90? I don't know. If you go to 22 foot-pounds and then do 90 degrees, or you get close to 22 foot-pounds and then you do the 90. Because I'm at 22 foot-pounds right now. And I'm not getting close to plus 90 on these. We put our new pads on. We put our new pad in our sensor like this. And then that goes on the back. And then, yeah, the one with the sensor goes on the back, and the one without the ears, like this, goes on the front. There we go. Then we fish carefully our brake sensor through the caliper. And then we put our caliper on. Hey, look at that. It fucking works. And then when these get torqued down to 26 foot-pounds. Oh, but we're gonna need a wrench to hold the set screw here. And I did not put Loctite on these. I only put Loctite on the caliper mounting bolts. Make sure I have them torqued to the correct limit. And then we'll reposition and do our brake wear sensor. This brake hose right here is gonna make this a challenge. So I'm gonna get an extension and push it further out. So we're out here. You still gonna need to hold this. Oh, okay. That worked. Okay. That part's done. Reposition, and I'll go back in here. All right. Now I'm gonna route this cable up over the caliper. And plug this in right here. There we go. And then this box has got 2 clips right here on the left. Oh. Okay. And this comes out of this bracket right here. Well, it should come out of this bracket. Does this come out? Okay. There's a clip where my thumb's at. Push this clip down, and what happens? A lot of dirt comes out. What am I looking for? Oh. So this clip is not going to come undone easily. There's a lot of corrosion in that. And then this just clips right into place, right? Yep, nope. It should go all the way up in there. And then this clip should reseat. I would be very careful when you're in here because these wires don't look like they're that strong. And if you're pushing and pulling, you might pull these wires out. So I would be very careful. But that looks like that clip engaged. Then this just sits back up in here. And then that goes back like that. And then you reclose. Do I have compressed air? A can of it on me. That's ABS sensor. Your speed sensor with this wire. All right. At least make it look clean inside there. But at least this is easy to get to. Some vehicles, this connection's buried behind the fender liner. All right. That's it for the front. Supporting the i3 in the rear, I have the jack on the rear subframe support right here. Be sure you're not on this tin right here. Make sure you're actually on the frame. And then the jack itself is right here, right where the lift point is. Hello, Cosmo. And when you lift the rear end of the i3, the rear tires are the parking brake. So you want to chalk the front of the i3 so that it doesn't go rolling down your driveway when you lift the rear end up to do the brakes. Can I help you? Cosmo. Cosmo. Can I help you? Can I help you? I love you too. I do want to point out this is after 158,000 miles. Now the i3 has sat for the last week, so you're gonna see this rust right here. I'm curious to see what the other side looks like and how bad these pads are. Because I don't have a lift, my i3 is technically on the ground. There's not enough room between the i3 and the ground to put you right here looking this way towards me. So you're on my right side, kind of overlooking my shoulder. To get started on this, we're going to, oh, this has that brake sensor. My brake sensor light was only on for the front, not for the rear. I'm going to pull these caps out. Now previously I had removed this brake and this rotor here when I had done the rear hub. So this should come apart pretty simple. As far as the spring that's right here, BMW says that it needs to be replaced every 48 months. I am a little bit beyond that because this car is 9 years old and these are all original. How did I get this off before? Oh, I don't know what I did, but I probably scratched my car. So I'd recommend replacing those per BMW's instructions or making sure yours are in good shape and reusing it. I believe these guide screws, as BMW calls them, is an H6, maybe an H7. It's an H7. Now, if I recall, there was plenty of room right here to do this, but down here, this control arm right here was in the way of this guide screw. Make sure we're going the right direction here. Nope. Wrong way. Wrong way. Wrong way. Let's go the right way. There we go. Now, BMW's directions make really no mention of the electronic parking brake other than to make sure that nobody has access to it to activate it while you're completing this repair. And after the repair, they say to activate it in and out one time. But they don't make a mention of putting it in service mode. So I'm wondering, when I push this caliper piston back in, if it will just go back in or if I have to disconnect the parking brake and push the caliper in. Now, if I remember correctly, this bottom one, I'm going to use an extension and go behind the arm, go under the parking brake, and then break it loose.
No.
This should be out far enough, and it is. And then this should, if I recall correctly, just lift up. Gingerly, I'm going to use a screwdriver to push these guide pins in so that I can get it out of the bracket here. They're moving, they're just not moving enough for my liking. There we go. Okay. And this should walk itself right on up and out. Oh, got a stupid brake wire, the brake sensor wire here. And it goes through the caliper. Come on, give me the brake pad. Holy crap. Really, holy crap. These brake pads are still pretty thick. Like, really still thick. What is stopping this from coming out? Legitimately here. Oh. Look how thick that brake pad still is. Maybe I only needed to do the front brakes, and that was it. Okay. Now, is this gonna come out, or do we have to go over, where does this wire go? Up in here, over back behind this shock right here, where my hand's at. Okay. Well, that's gonna be in the way for us to do anything. We're gonna set that aside at the moment. And I'm gonna pull off the bracket that's right here. We have to let the neighborhood know that we're outside. The rear caliper should be able to sit right back in here and not fall off. So right here, there's two 14mm bolts, I do believe. Two 14mm bolts back here. Ow. I don't know which way these go. Nope, not that way. It's this way. I'm the one that put them on. I don't remember it being that complicated. Was it this complicated? Oops. Probably helps if you don't have a flex head. Now, this rear caliper's in my way. Just sit your ass up there. There we go. Yeah, careful I don't smash my fingers as I push down on this. I do not remember that being like that. We're just gonna go out here. Okay, that was a little challenging. And I'm the one that reassembled this. Suppose it would help if I had a 3/8 inch. Was a 3/8 inch drive. I'm the one that assembled this last. Oh, I did put blue Loctite on there. Or did I not? Well, how thick is this bolt? How long is this bolt? The bracket should come off. Easy. Okay. Then the rotor set screw is an H6. Easy. And then this should just come off because there should be anti-seize behind this when I did that repair previously. Or not. Whoa. What the hell? Corrosion? Anyone? Now, I just put my winter tires on in like November of 24, and it's April of 25 right now. The joys of living in the Rust Belt. Holy crap. Look at that on the inside of the rotor. So even though my pads had a lot of meat left, this rotor is pretty scored. It was time to change them. Because it's not even getting the inner part of the rotor. Just this shiny part right here. Holy damn. Okay. Wire brush. Clean this up. On to the brake caliper. What I usually do is I put this back on so that I have something to bolt my caliper to hold it for me. Then I have this holding it, or something holding, and then I have something holding this caliper so that I can rewind that piston. I do want to make sure that I'm going in straight and not crooked. Clearly, this is more complicated than it needs to be. Now, I'm using a Maddox brake kit that I used in this video for the Ford Flex, and the size that I'm using is a size 7 that's on the disc. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see that on camera. In the kit, there's really it's between a 6 and a 7 where the teeth line up on the piston. Let me get this retracted and I will show you. So just put this in there. Give me back my glove. There we go. And then we can just put this in. So it's stationary. And then I'll line up the pins. And then this is a size 22. And then if you can see on camera, in hands, watch this piston go back towards the car if I'm going the right way. Nope. I'm gonna have to pull the e-brake. Oh, no. It's rotating, but the pins are slipping. I'm gonna have to realign the pin. Cosmo! Somebody just wants to bark. Where's the other divot at? Well, come on. Now I'm on the divots. And we shall try this again. Oh, there we go. Let's go the right way, Mr. Eco-Belkin. I did not go and put the e-brake into service mode. Mine won't go into service mode because on the driver's side, my parking brake actuator failed and I just removed it entirely. So I have a parking brake fault because of it. But even without this being in service mode, this is piston's going back really easy. And there it stopped. Does not go back anymore. I would try and loosen the brake bleeder screw that's back here where my hand is at, but on the driver's side, when I did that, the brake bleeder screw did not want to come loose. I was nearly rounding the bolt off. It is a size 11. This one's not coming loose either. So I pushed that fluid back into the line. I'm gonna have to get that loose because this does need a brake flush at some point. Yeah, I figured that was gonna happen. Anyway, without damaging anything. All right, I'm going to set this. Well, this is becoming a train wreck. This dangling pad right here. I'm going to reposition you over here so we can remove this brake sensor cable. The connection for this cable is back here where my hands are at. So I'm not sure. There's a box right here. And I believe this is gonna be the same as it was for the front. Tilt the box open, pull out the cable. What kind of Jiminy Cricket things do we have here? Oh, we got these stupid clips where my hand's at over here. It looks like you have to unclip it, like slide it towards the car to unclip, and then the clip folds back. And the connector is the top one. Oh, this needs sprayed down really bad. What engineer thought this one through? I'm curious, what is a brake job done at a BMW dealership? Because to be honest, it might be worth the cost to not deal with this petty stuff. Oh, well, that was removed pretty simple. And then there's the brake, the inner brake pad with the sensor not even activated. That's how much pad's left on that one. And then there's the brake, the inner brake pad with the sensor not even activated. That's how much pad's left on that one. A little bit of anti-seize. Make sure we probably did a better job this time than we did the last time. I would also be careful you don't get this anti-seize inside the thread holes for your wheel bolts. If you don't use anti-seize, probably could use fluid film. But if the original brakes lasted 158,000 miles, probably won't be doing these brakes anytime soon. By that time, the car might not exist in the next 9 years. Okay. What the fuck is that? The holes. Okay, I'm beginning to hate dealing with BMW parts. So the set screw is aligned on the rotor, but these two holes are not perfectly aligned. Well, I guess they're kind of oblong when they drill the rotor. Okay. This set screw gets torqued to 12 foot-pounds. Well, that's probably 12 foot-pounds. On the caliper bracket, BMW says to be careful about using mechanical cleaning on these nubs. So I'm just going to use a wire brush and knock some of the loose stuff off. It doesn't look like there's any grease applied to this at all. And if you look right here, this shiny spot, you can see where the pad just kind of like sat inside the bracket. There's even a spot right here too at the end of my finger. I don't see grease applied to this, but BMW does say in their directions to apply a little bit of grease on these contact points where the pad ears rest. Huh. You know, look at that shiny spot right there. You can kind of see how the pads kind of like just stayed right there and wore into the caliper bracket. Although on traditional vehicles, brakes don't last 150,000+ miles. They last like 50,000 miles. That's the beauty of driving an EV. Okay, now we put this back on. I'm gonna put this on and then I'm gonna put the caliper grease on this now. Whoa, I don't need this much. Just a dab. So we're gonna do just a dab. A very light coating. Like so. And then set this on. Be careful not to get any of the caliper grease on the rotor. Now BMW doesn't say to use Loctite on these mounting bolts. There's gonna be an overlay right here that will list the torque specs. If I read it correctly, the caliper bolts to the knuckle are 81 foot-pounds. My big head's probably in your way. I also noticed that on the rear, it doesn't say these get torqued to a specific foot-pound and then plus a degree. It's just 110 Newton meters or 81 foot-pounds. Okay, this caliper needs to sit somewhere else. Gingerly, out of my way. Not there, you're in my way. Sit back there on the axle. All right. And I'm going to put this on an extension, which you should not put torque on an extension. But there's no way to really, well, maybe there is.
Whoa.
Okay. There's no way to get this. Gonna have to go behind the arm. Well, I don't really have a lot of play here. I'm not sure that's really tight. The arm is in my way. And well, I hope that's 80 foot-pounds, 81 foot-pounds, because I don't have enough leverage. Ooh, that's gonna leave a mark. There we go. Oh! Boy, this is much challenging. Okay. That was a challenge for some reason. Whew. Now we put our brake pads on. The one without the spring goes on the outside. The one with the spring goes on the inside, and that's also the one that has the brake sensor connected to it. So this, the nub is going to go facing the pad, and then it's going to sit just like so. And then I'm going to have to route the damn thing through the damn caliper. Come on, in the hole. Come. Will you listen here? Give me my glove back. Now, BMW does not say put grease on these slide pins. You just make sure that they're clean with brake clean. And I don't think they thread out. Maybe they do thread out. Do they really thread all the way out? So BMW's directions say do not put grease on this, you just clean it. And that's what we're going to do. We're just going to clean it and lose our mind in the process. Just clean it with a little brake clean. What about the inside of that? Probably use a small pipe cleaner and get in there and clean that out, probably. I guess that's this. Yeah, that just kind of slides in there. Okay. Dare I get the other one out? Well, the other one come out easier than the top one. Yeah, I could use a cleaning. I'm not gonna try and clean out the hole. BMW's instructions do say if these are like damaged in any way, you replace them. I'd probably say mine are pretty pitted, but they're also like 9 years old. And then stick it back in here. Clean this little section right here where the brake pad is gonna meet the caliper. Right here where my hand is at. I'm just gonna clean that off. Probably add a little dollop of grease. Probably too much, but hey. And then I'm going to recenter this. And then put these screws back in. These get torqued, if I read this thing right, the BMW calls them guide pins. They go to 28 Newton meters or 21 foot-pounds. They also just kind of like stop. There's really no going further down. I'm gonna need the extension to get past the lower arm right here. Let's make sure we're aligned the hole here. I hate this. Probably should have done the bottom one first. Do you start at the top and work your way down, or start at the bottom and work your way up? Now, just have to route this cable. This part right here goes right back here over where the brake bleeder dust cap is. And then it comes up on this clip. Yeah. And then goes into this clip. But this thing is right here, which the old hose didn't have this cone shape. It had this smooth one. This is why you don't want to use aftermarket stuff. Perhaps? Yeah, okay. So that's kind of just going to sit there, I guess. And then the other one isn't going to fit in there. So I don't think we're using these clips. But I'm going to have to use the clip. Because this cable is going to need to be attached to this body somehow. Guess we're going to be zip tying it. But will you give me the damn clip? There, okay. So that kind of stays there. And this just gets reconnected. Make sure it goes all the way in and attaches. Make sure it goes all the way in and the clips engage. And then it goes right back into its little box. then I guess this clip is that's not gonna fit there. A part of me wants to just zip tie this right here. I don't think it's gonna fit inside this bracket or this clip that they have. Nope, because it's too thick with the ABS cable in there. And okay, so I'm gonna zip tie it. That's what I'm gonna do. Now this bottom one, it should fit. Ow! Give me back my glove, you wench. Okay, so it fits in that one. I need to clean my i3. I'm just gonna get a zip tie and zip tie that, and that's it. We're gonna put a zip tie through the clip. I'll put a zip tie through the clip. Give me the zip tie. Isn't that the automotive world's one of the little best friends, is this little zip tie? You could just, whoa. Probably not a good idea to do that. There. And then some cutters to cut that off. I am curious if I got this, damn it. I am curious if I got this torque pretty close. I did, just by hand tight. Don't forget the dust covers. And to put on the spring. Give me back the glove. There we go. The next thing to do now is to clear the brake warning light for the front sensor that was tripped. I believe that's going to be an air memory, and I think it's in stability control. Come on along, Beaverlink. We'll just scan everything. My poor i3 needs some work done to it. Oh, let's charging interface module. What is that? Charging connection flap. Oh, that's because when I open and close the flap, it has the gears grind. That has a sensor in it. Okay, BMW, whatever. We want electrical machine electronics. Oh, that's some stupid timer because I haven't driven the i3 in so long. I don't know what this emergency run manager is. I don't know what the charge failure is because it's not technically plugged in right now. Okay. Charge management, charging not possible. Okay. Yeah, we're just going to clear those. That was easy. I believe the brake, what is in the body domain? Hail element. What the? Seat heating failure? Yeah, my heated seat turns on for like 25 minutes, then it turns itself back off. We will clear all that. And then it tells me I can't do it. Anyway, I think the brake module is in, what is in roof's function center? Oh, details, theft alarm system. I think that's because the i3 was locked when I went to jack it up and it activated the alarm. Anyway, I think the brake should be in dynamic stability control. Yep, brake pad sensor, front axle, rear limit reached. But as you saw, the pad really wasn't that thin. And actuator right electrical fault, that's because the parking brake on the passenger or on the driver's side is not there. So we're going to clear, I should be able to clear the brake pad. Is it not going to let me clear the brake pad? No, because it's going to be stupid. So what about service reset? Service reset, brake front. We'll reset that because we just did it. And engine oil, brake front, we'll reset that. Don't know why it does not want to reset the brake front, but okay. Okay, vehicle check, and then I will fix the engine needs oil, the Rex oil needs an oil change. I believe that's it. Now when I turn this on, I'm going to push this pedal, pump it a few times. And then I'm going to pop the front and check the brake fluid level as well. I don't know what you're going to be able to see on camera, but the level's like right here and max is right here. So I'm going to add some brake fluid, but I'm also going to do a flush later on. And that is the project. And I have to say, I am really impressed with how easy everything came apart. There was no fighting the rotors to come off the hub. There was no fighting the caliper bolts to get the caliper out. There was no fighting the caliper to push the piston back. There was no fighting the pads to get the pads out of the caliper. It just came apart really easy. The only hiccup that I had was the brake bleeder screws for the rear on both sides. I could not get them open without rounding off the bolts. So I'm going to have to come back to that later on when I do a brake flush. The only real frustrating part of this project wasn't the actual project itself, it was the vendors themselves between ECS Tuning and FCP Euro. ECS Tuning, the pads did not give new brake hardware for the front, but the pads were too thick to fit on the front, but they gave new set screws. And then FCP Euro gave new hardware with the Bosch pads, but the hardware was too wide to fit on the caliper, and then they didn't give new set screws. So it's like, can you all make up your mind about what you're gonna do? But all that being said, this will probably be the only brake job this EV gets. I do a lot of driving. I bought this car with 25,000 miles, and right now, as of this filming, I'm at 162,000 miles. I do a lot of city driving, I do a lot of highway driving. I don't really use the brakes that much, and if the original ones lasted 9 years, I have a feeling these are gonna last 9 years, and 9 years from now, who's to say where I'm gonna be at with this vehicle? The battery pack is still good. I still get 85 to 100 miles of range. which is pretty good considering it's 9 years old. So we'll see. But I have a feeling this will be its first and only brake job. Let me know what you guys think down below. Technically, this wiper doesn't fit the i3, so I should probably get the correct wiper, and it wouldn't be so flimsy. Anyway, focus. Thank you, folks, for watching today's video. If you want to see more i3 content, click the rear tire. If you want to see more content posted this year, click the front tire. And to subscribe, click above the hood. The roof. Oh my God, the sun's killing me.